What's up, everybody? Welcome to Heresy Financial. This is the channel where we talk about topics, advice, education, and financial guidance, things that are considered heresy to the financial establishment. Today we're talking about Dave Ramsey and his take on gold. Dave Ramsey is very outspoken about how much he does not like gold, and he lists a lot of reasons for it. And so today we're going to dissect why Dave Ramsey doesn't like gold, and we're going to see whether he's right, whether he's wrong, or maybe it's a little bit of both. So to start, his number one reason why he doesn't like gold is because of the reason why people buy gold. It's fear. People pile into gold when they're afraid of the economy or afraid of the markets, and then they pile out of gold when they're not. And so in his mind, it looks like just a volatile investment. And so he's not interested in owning something that the price moves based just purely off of the fear or the greed or the lack of it in the marketplace. And so he talks about the price volatility, and that's the number one reason why he doesn't like gold. The second reason that he states that he doesn't like gold is just due to the long-term performance, which he shows on average is equal about to the official stated amount of inflation long term. At the time of one of his recent articles about it, it was about 4.3%. And so he's saying, why would you ever purchase an investment that has the rate of return that's equal to inflation? Ultimately, you're not actually getting a return there. The third reason why he doesn't like gold, why Dave Ramsey doesn't like gold, is what's called currency replacement. And so there is a common myth out there that if, among gold bugs, that if the world collapses, then people are going to go back and start trading gold like they maybe used to, hundreds of years ago to thousands of years ago. And so he kind of busts that myth and shows how we can look at circumstances throughout history when there is an economic collapse. And usually what happens is a new government comes in most of the time. Usually that new government is totalitarian or fascist. And even if it's the same government, what they'll do is they'll issue a new currency. When there's a collapse in the old currency, it's irreparable, they'll just issue a new currency. And then they'll legally force all citizens to use that new currency. And so hoarding gold and silver coins isn't going to do you much in terms of commerce, because nobody's going to be out there trading with them. And in an utter collapse, the apocalyptic type collapse that movies are made about, definitely nobody's going to be using these coins like that. You're mostly going to be looking to get things that are more useful for your everyday, being able to just live. So, maybe it's ammunition or food or water or clothes, shelter, and people aren't really going to be worried too much about coins trading back and forth. You might see some barter take place, just like we see in other catastrophes and disasters throughout recent history. The last reason why Dave Ramsey doesn't like gold is because of what he says, there's no intrinsic value to gold. So he talks a little bit about the intrinsic value factor, and he says there's no intrinsic value in gold, just like there's no intrinsic value in my paper money. And so there's the only reason it has value is because people give it value. People think it has value. And then he goes on to say that he doesn't invest in bricks, so he doesn't invest in bricks made of gold either. It's just a brick. So those are the four reasons why he gives that he does not like gold. And the funny thing is, he's right. All of these things are true. Number one, people do buy gold when there's fear and sell gold when there's a lack of it. The performance long term is about equal to inflation. The currency replacement theory is actually correct. Most of the time, there are new currencies that come into play, and legally people are forced to use them, and the old currencies are just done away with. And then lastly, the value. If the definition of intrinsic value means that it has to have value other than what people just think, the value that people think it has, then yeah, a gold brick doesn't have any more intrinsic value than a regular brick or than a piece of paper. And so he's right on these. The problem is he's looking at it from the view of it being an investment. And that's where he's wrong. Gold is not an investment. Gold is real money. And even though people don't trade coins and transact and do commerce with gold and silver today, the very fact that these things are true prove that gold is still real money. And here's why. I'll show you why. Number one, people pile into gold when there's fear. That means that everybody knows deep down inside, or at least a lot of big investors that can move the market know deep down inside that if things get bad enough, real paper money is going to collapse, and the real money, gold and silver, are going to come back as being the kind of the bedrock of the financial system. Number two, the performance is about equal to inflation. Well, what is inflation? Inflation is the expansion of the paper money supply. And what that means is that each dollar is worth less than it was before that new money got printed. And so if the value, the performance of gold is about equal to the inflation rate, then that means as your paper dollars lose value, your gold increases in value at the exact same rate. And so what that means is that gold is real money, because if the long-term performance holds its purchasing power, gold holds its purchasing power equal to what paper loses, then gold is real money. The inflation is the exact opposite. What your paper dollars lose in value is the exact opposite of what your gold gains or keeps in value. The third point about currency replacement, again, proves that gold is real money. We've seen this time and time again throughout history. When a currency collapses, they issue a new currency. Well, they don't just give people as much currency as those people had before, because you might have pallets of money in your backyard and it's worthless. Well, the reason they have to create a new currency is because there is a lot lower of a supply of that new currency, which makes it have value just like the old one used to have before it collapsed. You didn't need an entire pallet of it to buy a loaf of bread. And so the new currency, most of the time it is backed up by something of value like gold or silver by the government. That new currency, you're not just going to get pallets of it delivered to your house, otherwise it would be just as worthless as the old one. And so if you have just the old paper currency, you're screwed. You're out of luck. You can't do anything. Yes, the overall financial system will eventually recover, but that doesn't help you because all your money was in paper and now it's worthless. But if you hold your real money in gold, well then as soon as that currency collapses and the new one comes into play, you can just go buy new currency with your gold, because the gold and the silver is going to maintain its value. And so when you then need the new currency, that gold is still going to have value, and people want to buy gold and silver with that new currency. So then you can just exchange it. So your purchasing power, the value of what you have to be able to purchase something with, is preserved if you hold gold or silver, not if you hold paper money. If you hold paper money, the fact that currencies are replaced is an even greater argument for the fact that for something, maybe even if it's just an emergency savings account, gold is real money and it's going to serve you better. And then the last point that he brings up is about value, right? So he says there's no intrinsic value in brick, just like there's no intrinsic value in a brick made of gold, just like there's no intrinsic value in something made of paper. By that definition, though, the only thing that gives anything value is the fact that people think it has value. So there can't be such a thing as intrinsic value then. And so if we're going by that broad of a definition that intrinsic value is not actually real, then fine. You know, we can say it's not real. But the fact of the matter is there are certain things that historically have been proven to hold their value. So I'll use an example of real bricks, building bricks. In third world countries, if you ever see pictures, you might see houses with extra walls and extra rooms that are built on and piles of bricks maybe. And the typical person from a first world country will look at that and think that that's ridiculous. Why are these people stockpiling bricks? Why are these people, wasting their money? They don't need to build that extra. You could work yourself out of your situation, but you have these habits of building extra walls and extra rooms and bricks. And the funny thing is, these countries usually don't have stable banking systems. And the people who are doing this usually don't have that much money. And so what they'll do is they'll buy bricks as a store of value. because bricks are hardy. They can take a beating. And so what they'll do is they'll build a wall with bricks. As they accumulate them, they're going to treat this brick wall or this room or this pile of bricks like a savings account. They're just stockpiling it and storing it up. And meanwhile, while they're holding on to it, they can use it. It's building a room for them. It's building an extra wall for them. And so it actually does have some value of use because they're storing it up and they're using it. And then if they ever need money, they can just take the bricks apart from the mortar and they can go sell the bricks. Bricks are still going to have value. People are going to need to build with bricks. And so the argument that bricks don't have intrinsic value is actually false. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people across the world that actually use bricks, just regular building bricks, to store value. And so gold, even more so, the properties of gold make it have intrinsic value. So it's got it doesn't rust, it doesn't decay, it doesn't tarnish. It's very useful in a lot of electronics. And then it's always been used as jewelry. So people have always looked at gold and thought it looked good and they want to adorn themselves with it. And that's just something that is either just a part of human nature, just a part of human history and tradition, and it's lasted for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and there's no sign of that slowing down. Lastly, the intrinsic value comes from the amount of effort that it takes to pull gold from the earth. So gold can never really just become worthless because there's a labor cost associated with producing more of it. It's a very costly and labor intensive process to extract gold from the earth. So if an asteroid fell from the sky and we had, it was just made up of pure gold, and then everybody in the world, we split it up, everybody had, thousands of pounds of gold in their backyard, gold would be worthless, right? Because what would give it value at that point? Then everybody has it. It's as common as gravel, right? But there's an actual value associated with the labor and cost it takes to extract gold from the earth. So far more intrinsic value in something like gold and even regular bricks than something like paper money. Because as far as what it can actually be used for, paper, right? You can draw on it, you can write notes on it, you can, use it as toilet paper, you can use it to light a fire, unless, you're in a country where it's, starting to move into, made out of plastic and other materials other than paper and cloth. So as far as the intrinsic value, what you can actually use it for, something like gold does actually have a lot more intrinsic value. And so all of these reasons, they are true, but that's only a reason not to buy gold if you're viewing it as an investment. It's not an investment, it's money. And there's a big difference between money and investments. So that's Dave Ramsey's take on gold. He's right, these things are true, but he's wrong from the perspective of he thinks it's an investment. It's not, it's money. And let me know what you think in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. You have a great day.